Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
You're listening to Nonpartisan Hacks, the politics and policy podcast about good government from the local level on up. I'm Sean Wood, a City of Parksville councillor and 2026 mayoral candidate.
And I'm Joel Grenz, also a Parksville City councillor, not a mayoral candidate. We are recording outside today on Sean's deck here, so you may hear some chickens, leaf blowers, maybe a dog, so just be warned.
Yeah, are you a councillor candidate, Joel Grenz?
You keep asking me that.
Our guest today is Shayla Day. Shayla is the founder and CEO of DayHomes Society, a registered nonprofit out of the Oceanside region that does outreach, food support, housing navigation, and community coordination. She also chairs the Oceanside Homeless Task Force Board and co-chairs the Oceanside Community Action Team.
And here's the thing about Shayla. She didn't come to this work from a policy background or a government grant. She came to it from the other side of the desk entirely, but we'll let her get into that. But I think that is what makes her perspective so interesting for the show and why we had her on and what she can tell us about where government and community-based organizations can either connect well or completely talk past each other.
Quick standard disclaimer before we get going. The views here are our own and don't represent the City of Parksville or any other governing body.
Okay, and a pre-show plug, since Sean says no one listens to the outros of shows.
No one.
Please go to nonpartisanhacks.com. We've got past episodes there. You can drop us a line if there's something you'd like to see on the show. And definitely go ahead and subscribe on YouTube now if you haven't done that already, because it really helps get the stuff into your feed and feeds of people who are like you. And if you are someone who watches podcasts like this, then you are an interesting individual.
Shayla Day, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
I should unmute you before you say something.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Shayla,
great to have you on.
Thank you so much for making time for us. We're here on a beautiful sunny day in very late June, almost July. We wanted to start with you telling us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Honor and a privilege. A little nervous for sure. It's my first podcast, and I did not come here from any background of speaking in public forum or taking on delegation meetings. I came here because I worked the streets of Oceanside and seen a gap and thought naively I could open a nonprofit and just like that bridge the gap, and there'd be shelter and we'd all just go back to work. And that was almost 3 years ago. I come from the streets. I was homeless myself from the age of 11 to 21 and fully addicted to narcotics by 16. What we classify as street entrenched. So never had a job, never finished school, never had a driver's license, was in and out of jail, institutions, death. I overdosed 44 times and was resuscitated 15 of those times. So waking up in the hospital, not knowing where you are or even how to really function for the first little bit. So that's my background and where I come from. And then I cleaned up and thought that the job of serving the people was best fit for me. It made a decent salary alongside restaurant work, which was my first job, $9 an hour. And when you come from the streets, you definitely do not make $9 an hour. So it was a really hard flip the switch over. And then moving forward for 16 years, I've held really high profile jobs with really great organizations like the Salvation Army, the Lookout Emergency Aid Society, all the way to the Port Alberni Friendship Center, back to Calgary at the Boys and Girls Club, holding coordination positions, management positions, and basically, interestingly enough, come into positions where they needed a revamp, where they were struggling, they didn't know, and then my high energy vision self would come in the interview and be like, I got an idea. And they're like, oh. So
wait a minute, sorry, you're high energy?
Oh, no, not at all. It's the coffee Sean made me. No sugar. What? So yeah, that's been my real passion. And even as a young child, I can remember being like 6 or 7 years old in my basement with an old typewriter and my guinea pig magic, and I type up applications and fill them out with my fake class. Like that is my biggest, achievement to the world now, is my ability to see something, create a solution that is plausible, that everybody likes, and then sell that idea and then write it out on paper, because I think it's really important that we see what we're doing. So yeah, we know the problems there, but what is the solution going to look like for Oceanside? And I think we're at a pivotal point for that. So that's me.
Can we back up a couple beats there on
just
that?
one or two. Hey?
Yeah. Because I think you glossed over what is probably like the coolest part of your story is how did you end up sort of turning things around to being the Shayla today from the Shayla of before?
Rock bottom. I sat next to an individual. I was 16 years old. She was well past 40, no teeth, just really, really out there and talking to herself. And I remember going and looking over at her thinking, that's going to be me. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Even though I had all the narcotics and all the alcohol, I had a ride, I had everything I thought I wanted at that level. And I just started crying for the first time at 16. Never cried before. And then I reached out to my grandmother, who was at the time, she's passed now, psychologist, and she was also sober for 30 years, and, begged her for another chance to come out. I think it's really about just wanting it bad enough. We're not scared to die, addicts. We're more scared to live. So it's when it comes to the point where we are scared to die, where that moment and that, reflection of yourself comes in. You can't sell that, but we can create the environment for that. And that's our job now.
Wow. Okay. So how do you do that?
Yeah, it's really actually simple. And, it's funny when I listen to podcasts and they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What's the solution? We're not terminally unique. We don't have some, jungle homelessness out here rampaging Parksville or in the downtown east side, where we see a lot of that. And it's sad that our government is more into putting the money into crisis response, even though it's millions and billions and trillions of dollars, but not crisis prevention. So I think when we look at the downtown east side and we look at other international areas with real solutions, it's just simple. It's housing first. You can't change your life if you live in the gutters. Nobody's going to work on an empty stomach. I mean, I can't start my day without, 5 coffees. So if I can't do that, what can't you do? And be honest, nobody's batting 100 every day. So, when I hear it's a really complicated and we don't know what to do, research it, do your job, look into it, find a solution that works for us and place it, see if it does work for you, and then have open, honest, red table conversations about it.
There's a lot of sloganeering around the housing first idea, but what does that even mean? Yeah,
and I just took a lovely, not course, but a meeting with some international affairs, and I was actually quite shocked because my whole career, housing first to me meant housing first. They can't do anything until they're housed first, but actually it means meeting them where they're at here. And meeting them where they're at here means not pushing for change. Just, hey, you want to keep doing that? That's all right. I'm going to keep showing up for you. And that's okay. But that doesn't mean you get to level up in any social development skills. You just get a shelter bed in our first stage. And when you're ready to make those jumps into second, that's where we come into play, right?
What is the society's responsibility to, I guess, get people to the place where they're ready? Where's the role for that?
Well, it's their whole role. It's their job. A nonprofit's job is not to hand out coffee and socks. That's a great feeling in itself, but it's actually to create the environment for someone to be like, oh, wait a second, I'm not doing well. I want what you have. What are you doing that I'm not doing? And have a little bit of interest in it. Not, oh, I'm full now. Okay, great. I'm going to go back and do some more drugs. That doesn't work, right? So when we look at the downtown east side and the vicious cycle we're doing right now, and then we look at other communities in the world that don't have that, like there's got to be more to the solution for the bigger governments. And that's where DayHomes came into play. Like when I'm starting to understand, how does it get to the front line? Like, how do I get to, my boss tells me, hey, Shayla, this is what you get. Go do that with a granola bar and tent. That's what you get in Oceanside. Go save mental health and addiction and homelessness with that. I'm just like, what? That is all a person, a human sitting at a table like this voting on it. So if that's how small of an action it is, though it may take a million steps of actions and delegations and public hearings and all that shabam, it's still that simple action, isn't it? Where a table, whoever that table is out there, I will find you. But that table is in charge of voting the final decision of what our people get. That's it.
How do SROs, is that a good example of housing first
Yes,
SROs
of course
or
it
no?
is. Simple occupancy room is a great start for anybody. I don't know about you, but I don't want to start my life over with a roommate. It's already hard enough. So to have that ability to have that, for sure, that's not the housing crisis, that missing middle that we see, but that would situate those ones who have mental health, addiction, disabilities, and such like that. So yeah, definitely beneficial if it comes with programming.
Okay.
You don't get to pluck a soul out of addiction who's never brushed their teeth or taken a shower or drinking coffee in the morning, stick them in a 4x4 and say, good luck. They're all of a sudden going to know what to do. They need a huge wraparound support, right? And a proper assessment. Everybody is so different, right? Like when I needed at 16, I might not need, if I was 14 or 12 when I was trying to clean up, which definitely wasn't the case for me, right? I needed very extensive brainwashing. I needed a good in-housing 14-month lockdown, all women's treatment center, homestead, not getting out with 20 women around me till I got my stuff situated upstairs. And I don't think it's right still. We're still working on that part.
It's pretty amazing. Tell us about the assessment, if that's one of the first steps. Who is qualified to do those assessments, and what does that assessment look like?
Yeah, again, so that's the nonprofits or societies that are working social services, or for the government of Canada for the reduction of poverty. Our job is to assess you every moment, every action, actively listen, and then properly place. You're going to take 16-year-old Shayla and just put her in a first stage random house with no provisions or check-ins. I'm going to rampage it, right? I'm going to burn it all down. You need to place me in a proper facility. I need detox. And I stayed there for 14 days. You're only supposed to stay for 7. Cordova Detox seen me and was like, don't let her leave. Okay. Put her in the car, get her right. Like no ability to break that for me.
But I've heard
that.
Yeah. And one thing I've heard though is, I heard the story of this grandfather whose granddaughter just left the program, and he had no way of kind of keeping her there.
Yeah, when you can't keep them there, why would you want to keep them there? That's not their choice. Let them be. Most of us, I'll speak for myself. I was okay being loaded, right? Like drugs aren't like, oh my God, they're horrible. They do it because we love them. That was my first love of my life, was cocaine. So for you to say like, oh no, that's not even a real assessment, right? If somebody doesn't want to get clean, they're not going to stay clean. It's just that simple, right? If your soul is so broken that you don't see you as a problem, you're not coming out of it. And that's okay. We can be there for that. We'll be in the darkness with you. We'll hand you clean drugs and clean needles so you don't die. But I'm not going to put you in a government-funded programming that pays by my property taxes so you can rampage through my town and burn it down. That's not how this works. And I think another thing is proponents need to know that you're allowed to go to work and feel safe. You're allowed to say, hey, you're not allowed to do that. Please leave. A lot of times out here, it's a very like, oh, well, we don't want to hurt people's feelings. Hurt them. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to do that. So we have...
Whose feelings are you talking about?
Anybody's feelings that gets hurt by it. Usually it's the individual accessing who gets a no, but I'm pretty stern in a verbal, written, and that's the real world, right? Like you don't get to go to a job and burn out and show up late and be verbally aggressive to the people around you and keep your job and then pay your rent and go party on the weekends. That's not how that life story works out. And that's not how services work out. You can come and access my group, but if you're rude, if you're open, if you're littering and being aggressive towards staff, you get a verbal and they know it. It's a very loud verbal, like you can see my personality, and then it's a written, and that sucks, right? And then it's done. You don't get to access, and that's that simple thing. So when we show the results, it's not just about the person and what we become. So this is what you'll get. I'm a productive member of society. So when you invest in government programmings, we're hoping to produce this person in front of you. I totally just lost my train of thought there.
No, you're doing great.
Well, yeah, maybe dig into a little bit on that. So you're mentioning that people can get excluded from the program. And I think one of the challenges is that what do you do then for folks that can't even access that kind of program? And are maybe rampaging around the town, like you mentioned.
Yeah, when you look at Vancouver's downtown east side, they have a thing called the red zone. And if a clientele is not accessing and they're not allowed to that district of that block. And the best thing about the larger scale of, coordinated working tables is I know Duncan and I know Courtenay and I know Port and I know their shelter systems and I know they got a John Smith who's out to, and he needs to come over here. So we're going to swap that guy for this guy. Like I'm going to send that guy over there. Go access over in Courtenay. And, you've burned every bridge here. It's not working for you, man. I got a place in Courtenay. We're going to send you out there. The shelter staff know me. They call me. They got, a Jane Smith. She's just not doing well in Courtenay. Can you take her? Yeah. come on down. I got a shelter bed here. Let me try to work with you, right? That's working together at the larger court. And that's what the task force is trying to build right now, right? Like when we
You're
look
talking about the homeless task force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just to clarify.
That's what we're just trying to build, right? Is that coordination level where it all trickles down and we have that front line ability of success. Because if we're not succeeding on the front lines, you guys aren't succeeding at the top. So,
So when you send, say you give someone a verbal, a written, and a you're done warning, and you call port, and they have a space and they're willing to take this person.
Right.
It's kind of like that person gets to turn over a new leaf. They can't try anymore here, but they can go over there and try. Yeah. And these guys haven't given them the warnings, and so they're willing to try this person. And then maybe you guys take a person from port who maybe has had the warning written, verbal out there, but they come over here, and kind of the person gets to turn over a new leaf with the services. Yeah. Is that the idea?
And then also too, when they're done their programming, right? Let's say they succeed in court and they want to come back. Wow, they're done. They're a third stage level individual. They can come back and access us again, and we can keep that track on them, right? And that when they're in our town, we can have that ability to be like, hey, you're not allowed to use openly here. Well, what are you going to do about it? Well, you're going to get a ticket, dude. You're going to get pushed out of town, man. You're not going to access services. Outreach isn't going to help you anymore. Like you're going to get, and it's going to be hard for them to want to stay here. But I think that the majority of people we see out here aren't quite like the downtown east side or Victoria or bigger cities, right? Like what we're going to build here is going to be something different.
When you tell them, hey, you can't access the services because you've been red zoned, does that include provincial services too, or how does that work?
Well, in our town, we have clients who are red zoned from all services, so they're not allowed to access anything in town. They get no help, no socks, no food. They only get random PM outreach services. So yeah, that excludes them from all. They still get ministry help and their income assistance checks and
they
stuff
still get
like
that stuff.
Of course, that's for life or wherever they're on for. But services to your basic necessities, your food, clothing, shelter, yeah, you're done. You're not getting helped anymore. And why would you want to stay here? And also, like, I feel the people generally, we want to access. They don't want to be on the street, right? They want a drop-in center. They want a cup of coffee. They want a nice shower. Who doesn't, right? They want fresh clothes. If we have that to offer, which we don't, then there will be a little bit more to play with, right?
Sure.
Right now, okay, I'm going to tell you can't use Oceanside services. So you got nothing here I want to use yet, right?
Sure.
So to take the bigger picture of it all, right?
So the, I guess client or friends, whatever noun we're going to use for the people who want to access the services, they kind of feel like they let the service providers down a little bit with their own actions, and they kind of want to earn that back.
Yeah, and it's just about mutual respect. It's a place you want to be. Like my groups are somewhere people want to come to. They get excited about it. I show up with, passion and I want to be there too. Like I'm there to help you. I work for you. And I think that's what we forget too as leaders. Like my job is not for the government of Canada, though I get paid from them. My job is like my boss is the person, okay? And I remind them that like I'm here for you. So if you're gonna treat me badly, then I'm gonna treat you badly too. And that's just a mirrored thing of the world that we're teaching us, another life skills for them, right? So yeah.
Okay.
So I guess I want to dig a little bit more into what do you do for folks that really can't get to the point where they're fitting in even with a program like what you would offer? Yeah,
like me at 16, 14, 15.
Yeah,
you kind of made the choice. You made the choice eventually that you wanted to.
Yeah, after like 16 attempts. Yeah, I've gone through every treatment center in British Columbia. I've done multiple detox centers. Why didn't it take that time? There's no real everybody wants some answer.
A formula or something.
Yeah, and it's not quite that easy, right? But it really is at the end of the day. It's about an environment. Like it's something when I broke, and everybody breaks. No human can take it forever. There's always a glimmer in someone's life where they're like, yeah, I think today I've had enough. Like I'm good. I need some help. Who am I going to call, right? So those moments do happen. But the sad part about Oceanside is when those moments happen, there's nowhere to put them, right? You got all these hopes and dreams out there and nowhere to fulfill them. It's the saddest place I've ever worked in my entire life.
So what the concerns that we hear out there from people is around safety and disruptions of people that are out on the street. We're on council, so we get emails from people who are saying like they're disruptions on our street and that we don't feel safe and that we're accidentally maybe driving over people that are laying on the road. Like what do we do to balance the concerns of those folks like some people I've heard say, well, people should just be more compassionate about it. But on the other hand, people who, like, we all have our struggles and we all have our ways of dealing with them. And most people aren't laying on the road.
Yeah. so I'm just curious why you guys are doing it anyways. Is that in your job duty as a city council member to pick up the phone for homeless? I don't think it is. I think you're actually supposed to have a sector in your branch off for social services, right? And you're actually supposed to have a car 87 you call, and a shelter, and a drop-in hub, and a first aid, and a second, and like all this. You don't have the services. That's why it's landing on your desk, and that's why it's such an uproar, because they probably want to help the person laying in the street.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't know what to do. So they're calling anybody they can. Could you imagine a future, very close future, where there's just a number you can call and they can feel secure and walk through it and then see the person come out and help that person, right? Or maybe they won't be on that street because there's going to be a drop-in center. Oh my God.
So if there was, let's say, a number to call, which, like, so this is
call Shayla Day.
Yeah. What would happen
today?
Yeah.
Working on taglines.
Yeah. We'll workshop those.
That's right.
Like what would, so let's say there's a number to call. What would the number respondent person do?
Yeah, well, first it would just, hear the person. I think a lot of the times you just got to listen, and then you act, and then you follow through, and then you show the outcome, right? So yeah, somebody gets a call, I talk to them, I hear them, I follow through by going to the person, assisting the person, removing the person, working with bylaw and RCMP because we all sit at the same level, and then calling the person back and being like, hey, thank you so much, or whatever is needed for that individual that they want for their wrap up of their call into the center, right? And that's a really good way to show the community of what social services are actually like. Like, we're not just setting up shop, willy-nillying it, doing bonfires and just roasting hot dogs. You know what I mean? Like, look at Ladysmith, for example, right in your core, and you don't even know, right? So that's what we're going to build here. Accountability. How
important is detox? Obviously, is super important that you went through to kind of get clean and then be able to start rebuilding your life.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. Some people, have relapses and they don't need to go to detox again. And that's that assessment part, right?
Okay.
And, you want your services here in town because, take for my story, for instance, and I bet Calgary, Alberta misses me very much, but I left there to get clean and now I'm staying here. So if Calgary, fit me in the way I needed, I would have stayed there and bloomed there in their city. And I'm ramping up your city right now. So I'm a flourishing member. So to have a detox facility for your members is a great idea. And when you look at the overdoses that hit coroners' tables, it's not actually the homeless people. It's 35 to 55-year-old white males who live in nice places and condos doing drugs by themselves and have no supports. Everyone on the streets supported by us, and we'll Narcan them back. It's your people dying by themselves because they don't have anywhere. And God forbid they were to reach out. Could you imagine right now, Joel or Sean, if you got a drug addiction and then tomorrow you had to reach out, how would you feel running for mayor and city council having, an addiction or a mental health where you just couldn't get out of bed anymore? What would you do? Wouldn't you feel embarrassed? But why? Why should you feel embarrassed if you're not batting 100? We're human. We're not always going to be great. We're going to fall. Our mom's going to die. Our dog's going to die. Whatever the scenario, there should be the ability for us to just be like, hey, we got a great solution. Like, we are as strong as our weakest link, but we don't play like that in today's society, right? We shun them. We look down on them. They're dirty. They're weak, especially out here. But
Parksville is getting an addiction recovery center. Hopefully it opens. I don't know if in fall or whatever the date kind of is.
Very exciting.
Island Health. Kind of chasing the date a little bit, but those clients, from my understanding, they go to detox first, which won't be kind of in Oceanside. They'll go somewhere else for detox, and then they come to this addiction recovery center.
Yeah, and this one is more an island-based 1-800 hotline where you're calling in and I need help. I live in Courtenay. I need a treatment center right now. This one's available because it's Island Health run. And then they also have a very strict exit plan, right? They're not necessarily from here. They're going to, access and stay here. There's a huge summary of how they're going to get out and work their way back into society.
So the stage before the addiction recovery center, those detoxes, are there enough of those beds? Where are they? How does that part of the system work?
Nothing out here again. Like, if you leave Nanaimo and you hit Courtenay, that's where your help is. If you leave, there's nothing in between. So I guess it would be always Nanaimo.
Okay.
Right? Courtenay. But I don't really see the numbers out here wanting all of that big, rigid stuff.
Okay.
You know, with rural communities, with my experience, you can do it with modular homes. You look at the Port Alberni Friendship Center, they're doing great things. Courtenay's doing great things. Victoria's doing great. But you just little things. Like we don't need some big, you know, structure. We're Oceanside. There's not that many people, but there is a good chunk of people that want to access. And then the housing situation's a whole different chunk, right? Like that's not with services. That's just affordable. I could use affordable housing, right? Maybe I could use some mental health stuff too. But that is the sector of it all. And when you start placing that, then none of your people fall. You just cycle them through. And that's it.
You touched on it there a little bit. We talked a lot about addiction so far, but in this kind of entire subject, it's usually coupled mental health and addictions. How does mental health work into all of this? Because we've talked a lot about addictions, and people might have to hit rock bottom. They kind of have to choose, and there's detox and recovery. How does mental health work into that for people who are really struggling on their own? We kind of closed our mental health institutions, and we don't really have those anymore. We do have still some beds, and I think the province is trying to build more mental health kind of facilities. But what are your thoughts on mental health?
Well, look at Orca. It's a supportive housing unit that deals with all levels of disability, setbacks, mental health, addictions, and such forth. And any case plan is the same as long as you know the problem. Does that make sense, right? So you place addiction or mental health there, and then you work around it.
Okay.
With mental health, I feel that with a proper facilitator, actually I know, and then running life skills group, right? So with this veterans funding, we're going to be doing weekly life skills groups. So I'm not going to be going into their homes or helping them with their mental health, but I'm going to be assisting them with tools on how to help their mental health, or what do you call it 3 a.m. in the morning when you wake up, or what do you do with those nasty thoughts? That stuff's really important, because I personally didn't know about half the stuff I've learned the last 3 years in doing this soul searching, digging, nonprofit building gong show I've been doing, that I didn't know about it. And then I get given this tool, and it's such an easy tool. And I'm like, oh my God, I love it. And I'm running around the world with it. I'm like, check out this new tool I got. That's the point of it. That's mental health. So I think it's really important that,
Sorry, what was the tool?
Yeah, that one. Did you drop that down? Get that one down. But then having the awareness, right? So giving them the knowledge is the power, right? So yeah, I heard this thing on a podcast where they say thousands, but that's hard for you to believe in this moment. So I'll just say 100 people all wrote down their 5 top insecurities and threw it in a fishbowl. And the guy pulled out each one, and nobody could tell there's a part, because we're all so similar in our head, right?
Sure.
We're all thinking the same stuff. And that's mental health 101, right? So when we as leaders are equipped with these responsibilities to show the people, what do we do? You have to be doing it too, of course. Equipping them with the knowledge, and then showing them in groups, in facilitation, and in hands-on experience how this works for you.
The one number, I liked your idea of having one number you can call as kind of the concierge for someone to go and check out the person and to see how we can help them. Is that a nonprofit? And then
CAR87.
Okay, it's CAR87.
It's already, everything I've done, I didn't create, right? Like I didn't all of a sudden wake up and was like, I'm amazing at shelter. I've been doing this and being taught this from the best of the best, and also researching like what's worked in the world. And so that stuff is need to be applied here, and you'd have the same results.
And the CAR87, that's a person who rides along with RCMP?
Well, kind of like Manavan's got that little mobile van, or ICCS in Nanaimo got that little, they got a little car going
set of
around.
wheels.
Yeah, and it's just a 24-hour number you can call, and you can get in touch with somebody and be like, there's somebody dying in my alley. Can you please help? RCMP has a 16 wait list. Why should they have to deal with it? It's not their job, right? Like you're supposed to have a branch off. I've also done my research in your council, and you guys, for some reason, are the only ones without it.
Without a CAR87.
Without social services.
Yeah, well, it really depends on the budget size of town. I mean, Tassus has 400 people, and they can't even afford.
When you look at the BC housing map,
a smaller budget.
You're the only chunk of land on the whole island that doesn't have a little blue house, which represents help.
For all of Oceanside, you're kind of talking about.
You leave Nanaimo, and then there's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into the jurisdictional stuff like Oceanside versus Parksville versus Qualcomm Beach versus
that's another
regional
weird
district.
one.
So, I mean, and that's a little bit beyond the purview of today's discussion. But in terms of the sort of the principles that you're getting into there, and like sort of best practices, we've heard a lot about secure involuntary care. What's the role for that in your mind?
Involuntary care? We don't know until we try. I think for me personally, if I was taken off the streets and put into a facility for a year, I could have made it out for sure. I was unable to keep myself there for longer than 2 weeks. I always left and burned it right back down. There was no stopping me. And people they're like, just a plane ride off. Like if you were to know me, you'd be like, she's not making it out. So I think involuntary comes again with assessment, right? Like where are they at? How many times have they had it? What are they doing? Are they on our streets for the rest of their life? Like, is that the end goal for Canada? Like, we're just going to leave you on the streets and meet you where you're at? I don't think that's working anymore, you guys.
Well, that's kind of the thing is that it feels sometimes like people who suffer from Alzheimer's or children, like we don't give them the freedom to do certain things, but yet we allow people to flounder on the streets. Obviously there's a human rights issue and all that, but like, how do you balance that in your mind? Well, this speaks more to the mental health piece than the addiction.
Structure, placement, accountability, following through, leaders coming together, nobody's talking to each other or wasn't for the longest time in Oceanside. We all sit together now. So it's working way differently now. I think it's just coming together. You guys run the world, politicians, and then there's the senior leaders table, other executive, all those strong people, players, they need to work all together. And that's how you stop your streets from becoming a rampage of it all.
Yeah, well, the jurisdictional things come into play as well on all this, which is one of the challenges is, whose responsibility is what, what's Canadian government versus provincial government versus local government, and then different sizes of local government have different capabilities and budgets and tools at their disposal. And it's also finding a balance about what communities can provide what sorts of services. So
everyone's different for sure.
Yeah. In terms of your kind of advice to, you've worked through different communities, right? So you've been in Calgary, downtown East Side, Toronto, okay, Oceanside. Yeah. What advice would you have for, I guess, people on the social services side to better understand, because you've got the lived experience that maybe people in social services don't have? Is there advice that you would give? And also for people who are on the policymaking side, coming from your perspective and having the background and now being kind of having been on both sides of the service relationship there.
Yeah, I guess for the policies ones, just to listen. I watch a lot of city council meetings or go through the history and, it's said or things aren't pushed through. And then they're like, what happened? They're like, well, we just told you there was a crisis happening and you didn't do anything. So I think that's really hard to watch. So just to be, have that ethical research in you, not just to take your own provisions and place them. For example, at the task force, I wanted a shelter outside of Parksville. I got voted for inside of Parksville. So that's my passion now. I run with that. That is my job. I will do my job on that. Even though I don't believe in that, I'm still going to deliver on that. So I think that's really important for policy writers. And then for people that are providing services, for me, you think I'm aggressive now. I needed a very hard reality upside the head. And, Brenda, we called her the Nazi at Homestead. She was the one to deliver that one to me. And without her sternness and her motherhood, it's almost like those transferable skills as a parent, right? Like you love your child, but you don't want it to hurt itself. So what are you going to do? Are you just going to be like, hey, good luck. I'm going to meet you where you're at, buddy. And give him scissors and he's going to start running around? No, he's going to hurt himself. So those things we need to take that we're only human, right? Like, assess appropriately and place your tools correctly. Do your training. Don't come into this field just hot from the press or just because you Google searched how to save a puppy. Like, do the work and then do your job and it will all work out. It's really that simple. For me, anyways, it is.
Well, really want to thank you for all the work that you're doing and for coming on the show. And we touched on all kinds of different topics, and but it's really interesting to hear from your story and how that has taken you to be of service now to the community, and that's really appreciated that you can take that and turn it around and help other people, and hopefully and definitely affecting lives all over the place. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Shayla. You have an amazing story. Really appreciate you. Thank you for being on our show today. We look forward to, working with you in the future. You've come to us at council and the regional district of Nanaimo, and you're doing some great work in the community, the task force and day homes, etc. You provided meals to people just yesterday, right? And did I see muffins or cupcakes or something? Cupcakes. This has been really good. I'm just going to go with our outro here. I think what strikes me most is that you're not describing a Parksville problem or an Oceanside problem. You're describing a gap that exists in pretty much every community of a certain size across the country.
Yeah, and the through line for all this is the question of what governments are supposed to do, what they actually do, and what ends up falling to people like Shayla when those things don't match.
And for anyone who wants to learn more about DayHomes Society or find out how to support the work, you can find them at dayhomes.org. They're also active on Facebook. Shayla posts about every week about Sunday outreach, what they're serving, and how people can get involved.
And with that, we'll call it a wrap on this episode of Nonpartisan Hacks. We love to hear what you think. If you're still around, make sure you subscribe. I did the tease at the beginning of the show, or the suggestion. If you have a good government story or topic idea, stop by at nonpartisanhacks.com.
Shayla, thank you so much for your time. And until next time, take care of yourself and your community, everybody.
Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca